Hello, this is a new review from Autogefühl. This is Thomas and I'm presenting to you today the Golf 7 GTI. Actually, you requested this review from us and we are very happy to give you the review of that car. We actually got several reviews to comparable cars. We got a review from the Golf 7R, all linked in the video description. We got the Golf R Cabriolet, which is still on Golf 6 platform. We got also the Volkswagen Scirocco, which is a smaller car, a little bit more sportive, not available in the US but here in Europe still. But you can also check this review, Scirocco R, Scirocco TDI, and we also got the Seat Leon Cupra, which is also comparable to that car because they use the same kind of technique. And I think this is kind of also a very good introduction to this car because they are basically very much choices here in the Volkswagen Corporation. Starting here with the Golf GTI, about $25,000 in the US and about just below 30,000 euros in Germany, for example. This one here is the one with performance package. I'm going to explain to you later what this really includes. And then you got this Golf R choice with more horsepower, 300 horsepower for that Golf R. This one here has 230. The Golf R, of course, more expensive. The Scirocco, less expensive, below the GTI, and in between the GTI and the Golf R is the Seat Leon Cupra. So it's really interesting to look at all these Volkswagen Corporation cars. And today we are going to focus on the Golf GTI Performance. So the typical GTI color is red for racing, and there we got the GTI logo in the front, and quite neat feature, we got this red stripe here, horizontal line, which is carried out through the headlights, and that's kind of a very nice feature. From serial production it comes with big xenon headlights, by the way. And then of course we got a little bit stronger here at the lower part. It's all black plastic, so it doesn't feel too good, but well, it looks a little bit more impressive than with the serial version. You probably don't see it directly, but this car sits 50 millimeters lower. That's not much, but at least gives you some more sportiness into that car without losing too much comfort. More about the comfort, I'm going to talk about that while driving, of course, later, but I can already tell you it's more about the alloys. Because here we got the 20-inch alloys. They look pretty massive, very sporty as well. From serial production it comes with 17-inch alloys, and then you can upgrade. And then here in the Performance Pack version we got also the red brake calipers, which are all very beautiful and also fit, for example, to the other GTI logo here at the side. The other feature of the Performance Package is just that you have 10 horsepower more. So the normal GTI version has 220 horsepower in that 2-liter turbo petrol engine. This Performance Pack version has 230 horsepower. Well, it doesn't make too much difference, but of course you want to have something when you buy the Performance Package. The biggest difference is that there's a front differential lock, and I'm going to talk more about that later. At the rear of every GTI you got two pipes here, and you see they are also covered in chrome, but that's just attached. If you look just beneath it, it's just attached on it. It's not that the full exhaust does look that way, but you know, who cares if you look at it from the outside, it just looks nice. And we also got a slight rear diffuser here at the back, and of course another GTI logo. So the overall design conclusion, in my opinion, this Golf GTI, you can go everywhere with it. You won't feel like anyone is being offended by a too masculine car or something like that. So it's a little bit of understatement. So you basically got a car where you can go everywhere in society, but still you got these nice sporty features. And I think this is kind of also the compromise, that you can use it in everyday driving, but also if you want something more sportive. It has a tradition in the Golf GTI that the interior is also very special, and especially this red color here on the seats, and also, you know, just the whole optic with this checkered structure. This has also been always been the case in the GTI, and for example, also check out the review of the Volkswagen Golf GTI, the plug-in hybrid. There you've seen maybe that everything which is red here is covered in blue. You know, blue, this fancy environment color, everything is blue, clean and stuff and so. But here we got the red, and it's all about racing. And you know, my favorite stuff in car interiors are always contrast stitches, and you got them all over the seats. And they're actually, you know, they offer good side support. You see this one is here and covered in Alcantara, the sides. For my taste, the seating could be a little bit softer, because when you're going on, you know, longer trips or something like that, it can get a little bit stiff. But in general, this kind of design of seats and also the form is a very good example how you can create something very premium-like with seating without using leather at all. I think that's a very good feature. We also have a very stylish cockpit here. I really love the steering wheel, a flattened end, GTI logo, red contrast stitches on the inside, and it also offers very good handling. We also got a special GTI key with the logo here at the lower end. It's also very premium-like. And then we can turn on the instruments. The instrument also very clean. And what I must say, very good with Volkswagen is always the quality of the buttons. For example, if I just like change the volume, or for the automatic cruise control, or also here in the region of the GPS, where I just have the turning knobs, or for the temperature here, this always feels high class. Even, you know, the small sounds that are created when you turn the buttons. When it's dark, by the way, just the roundabout of the button is enlightened a little bit. That's also some kind of these very small details which you just have to like. Then the center console, and here everything you see, you know, it doesn't arouse too much attention. It's kind of a carbon structure, but very dark. But in general, you know, because it has this structure, it's not that prone to this fat gluing fingers when you touch them. From serial production here in the interior, you got these chrome frames, by the way, which are very beautiful. So you got that in every GTI version. The park pilot is also included, but the rear-view camera is optional. I'm going to show you it to you also later. In general, this interior is kind of, yeah, well, it does very much fit to the exterior, I think, because you got some emotional feature, but it's not too much. It's also has a little bit of understatement again. And so you got a very nice compromise here as well. And the whole interior is just basically usable as a normal Golf 7 interior, so you don't lose your practicability for your everyday driving. And also to mention, you see here our shifting lever. It has some kind of a golf ball structure. It looks funny at first hand, but actually when touching it, it's just like a very special haptical feeling. So that's also, yeah, well, something that cheers you up always when shifting. So this one is the premium multimedia system. I think it's one of the best right now because the resolution is very good. The size of the screen is also optimal, I think, not too big and also not too small. Everything looks very good, I think, and there's also this proximity sensor. You see, if I come close with my hand, then I don't have the full overview, but I can see the different options I have. The basic functions I control here to go to the radio, for example. Bluetooth iPhone connection works pretty well, also quite fast. I can check the traffic here for the German Autobahn. Here, for example, I can see some statistics, figures for consumption. It's quite high in this case because we had the acceleration test here. Usually we, in a mix, when you go just every day, you usually use about 8 liters per 100 kilometers. 6 liters is the official figure, but effectively you use 8 liters. And of course now 10 if you really push the car. Then let's jump to the GPS. Here we got a digital compass, for example, but you can also just skip it. Then just to show you the reaction speed, it's quite good actually. For example, if we enter a city here now, you see how fast it's actually reacting. That's pretty good. So just let's see, just some random street. And now that you can check the reaction time here. So you got 3 different routes here, economic, which one is the fastest, and which one is the shortest route. And then, for example, we can now go for the shortest route.
Das Ziel liegt an einer durchfahrtsbeschränkten Straße.
And then let's zoom in.
900 Meter dem Straßenverlauf folgen.
That's the way it looks like zooming. So overall, I think this GPS sets standards in the industry. Or what do you think? So about the rear camera. The Park Pilot comes from serial production, what we see here, front and rear. Very well done as well. And then here optionally we got the rear view camera. I think it's one of the best also in the industry because the resolution is very good. And we got also this solution here, that you got the Park Pilot at the same time, but you know you can look through it, because usually the Park Pilot would cover all of that now and you couldn't see the left side. But here in this case you can see both, but you can also change that view, of course. So that's the parking system. So we're switching now from the front seats to the rear seats, but something I would like to show you first is the basic quality of this car. And for example, you also see and hear that at the door handles, and just listen to the sound when the door is being opened and closed. It's a very clean sound. They have own laboratories to develop this kind of sounds. I think it works pretty well. Also the door handle doesn't have any play to up and down. It's kind of fixed. So you see everything is really taken care of in detail here. As I also showed you the Golf GTI, it's of course the same. Also all the rubber that is used, it's all flawless and there are hardly any gaps between any parts that are connected. And this one is really a good sign for the Volkswagen quality. So we're going to the back seats. So right now I got the seat in the front as I would be driving, and I'm almost 190. Of course it's just a compact car, you can't expect too much space in the rear compartment, but you see for an adult my knees are perfectly fine. I can put my feet under the front seat. Then if I just put the headrest a little bit more upward, well, I could have a little bit more space, but maybe like the front driver could go one step further. Then the head space, still okay. So I got like this space above my head. So that's perfectly fine. You of course feel this kind of shoulder the car has a little bit, but in general it's really okay to drive with 2 adults here in the back as well. What is very nice, I can show that when I get out here again, then you can just, you are the camera now, so you can go in while I talk. When you just look at the seats here in the back, the whole design from the front seats is carried over to the back seats. So you also got the nice Alcantara here and the inside of the seats. And so also the rear passengers feel very comfortable and premium in this car. By the way, this leather which is used, this is artificial leather. You can't really tell the difference which is artificial and which is not, but usually for the inside of the doors and also for the side of the seats, meanwhile artificial leather is used, which is kind of good in my opinion, because for real leather, in most cases, a lot of animals not only have to die, but really have to suffer before doing that. So, and then let's go to the trunk. As we just are used from the Golf, the mechanism is hidden here. And, oh, okay, that's live, you see, it doesn't open here now. I think that's, you know, when you open that one and then don't get the hatch immediately, but you know, hesitate a little bit because you're talking to a camera or something like that. That might happen. So, but usually it's not a problem. So, the rear view camera is, by the way, also hidden in here. It's a very clever system. And then you got this classic hatch trunk. Well, you know, very scary. I think you can use it very well. It's not too big, of course, but for a compact car, I think a lot of the space is used because the whole concept of the car is, you know, rather scary in the back here. Of course, you can get the car as a 5-door and 3-door version, or it depends on your definition, because especially in Germany, you usually say that this is a door kind of, and you say 5-door and 3-door. But of course, if you don't use the trunk as a door, so-called, it would be 4-door or 2 doors if you just look at the side. The price difference in Germany is 900 euros, by the way, a little bit less of dollars in the US. So that's the trunk as well, and I think we should get to some driving, because this GTI is of course about the performance, and we can just take a little look at the engine. So praise Volkswagen for this very easy system, very well to open, and yes, we got the hydraulic dampers, the classic Autogefühl hydraulic dampers here. So we can just use one arm to open it, everything. This one is here, it's a 2-liter petrol engine, of course a turbo, TSI, it's the abbreviation for this turbo engine. And you see, we basically got a lot of space in the front department still. And maybe that's nice to look at when you go behind here. See the massive pipe system. But in general, you know, nowadays most of the engines have this cover. Some of you asked me why using this cover. This one is kind of small, but there are also like bigger covers, and even in a Corvette or a Maserati they use this huge covers. It's basically to protect the engine against mud or some other fluids and dust. That basically makes sense, and also used in modern cars to have more noise isolation. You see, that's the same that's carried over here. That's also just that the engine is more silent when facing the environment, or also for the drivers inside. So here, of course, again, more quality from Volkswagen to use a rubber even here to isolate the engine, and also that nothing gets scratched here on the headlights, because you see the headlights are carried over here as well. So this glass needs to be protected from the upper side. So we have a visitor here now. It's not my dog, it's just a visiting dog, but I find it quite cute because he has the same color in the car actually. And as his tongue is red, you might also see the red color of the tongue. So I think if you are driving a GTI, you should probably also get a dog from the animal shelter. And yes, yeah, hey, hey. Sweet here. Driving inside a city, a lot of the sports cars tend to be a little bit rough, and that's rather uncomfortable, because if you want an everyday sports car, you want that sporty feeling in the corners, but still want something you can drive every day without hurting your back. And actually this Golf GTI, you don't really feel that the car is 50 millimeters lower when driving in the city, so it doesn't get too uncomfortable. Also, we got the 20-inch alloys here on that car. That is not from serial production. You usually get the 17-inch alloys and then can upgrade it with additional costs. But you know, usually 20-inch alloys are quite uncomfortable. They always look great, of course, but you know, not too practical. But in this case, it really works, I think. It's not too uncomfortable, although we have this 20-inch alloy, so I'm quite optimistic about that. And so you can really say that you don't lose so much comfort in comparison to the normal Golf here in everyday driving, but still got, you know, this emotional appeal and the performance of the GTI. So I think in this case it's a very good compromise between the two factors. However, if you want to have it a little bit more comfortable even, you should go for the smaller alloys, because I think this one is the crucial factor, because you know, this 50 millimeters in the suspension will make so much difference. It's really more of the alloys. I think it's still okay, as I said, for the 20-inch alloys here, but of course the small alloys are always more comfortable because there's more way the tire can actually soften the ride. So, and what else is good here when riding in the city? Well, you know, from the sound isolation, it's very well, I think. There might be also a difference with Skoda and Seat that might also explain the little bit of extra price you pay for the Volkswagen. And the second point is the engine is also very silent if you keep it at low RPMs, so you would maybe think it's a normal Golf petrol engine. Only if you go right above 3000 RPMs, you hear that extra GTI sound, then it gets a little bit funnier as well. And also the shifting process is so smooth. Of course it's sporty with short shifting ways, that's a lot of fun as well, but also in the city it helps because you're quite relaxed there when you don't have any resistance when shifting, and also when the shifting ways are very short. So you don't really miss an automatic transmission here, although I'm usually a fan of the automatic transmissions. And I would also go for the DSG here in general. But you know, some of you guys are also a fan of manual transmission, especially when you pick a GPI, so that's also pretty fine here. If you go for the DSG, by the way, there's of course an extra price, and it's also not cheap, so you usually in different Volkswagen cars pay between 1,000 and 2,000 euros. In Germany, for example, it's 1,000 euros. Same, for example, also for the GPS, costs 1,000 euros extra. But these are kind of the main features you would buy extra for this car, because everything else is very complete from the whole equipment, and it's trimable already in the GTI, so you won't need anything else besides these two things. So what is quite amazing here as well, you know, we only get a 2-liter petrol engine. We look at here, for example, when we go from 80 to 100, fourth gear. I think that's quite feasible for such a small engine. Usually you would, you know, expect something like that from something with a higher capacity. But in this case, even if you're like in 6th gear, if you don't want to shift so much, it's even possible to be in 6th gear and still accelerate on the motorway. So that's quite amazing, I think, for this kind of engine. We also got the ACC feature here. So if I press the set button here at the steering wheel, I got it set to 100 kilometers an hour, and then the car automatically keeps the distance. With this key in the middle, I can also set the distance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different levels. So the last level is a lot of distance, and the first level is just a small different distance to the car in front of me. For example, here now we got an Audi R8 in front of us. Always a nice car to follow. And you know, it gets a little bit closer. I got the minimum distance now. And now I feel it's starting to slow down the car. And I would say you know, this first level of distance, I think it's not enough. So I would usually go for the second level of distance, and that's pretty much fine, I think. Works quite well, the system, by the way, except of one criticism point I usually mention when it's working that way. In this case, we got a manual transmission, so I think it's okay when it cancels at a speed of 30 kilometers an hour. But, you know, there are also when you get the DSG, same would be happening. The Volkswagen audio system usually at the moment don't break down until 0 kilometers. I think that is not okay. For the manual transmission it is, because you have to clutch in as well, because the engine would die otherwise. But in general, I'm in favor of the system that break down until 0, like Mercedes or Volvo is offering. Usually this car is measured with 6.4 seconds. This is a performance pack here. Without the performance pack, it's 6.5 seconds, so, you know, 0.1 second. Who cares, doesn't really matter. Of course, these small turbo engines, they only get really fast if you really use this turbo at the high RPMs. And then again, if we, for example, would have been in a corner when accelerating, here in the performance pack, we got the front differential lock. And that helps us, especially to go faster in corners and to accelerate faster in corners, because when you're in the corner and accelerating, all the weight is towards the outer wheel, and the inner wheel tends to get a little bit of spin. And if you got the differential lock, then you can decline that factor and have a higher corner speed then as well. Hey, a second white GTI, also a Golf 7 basis here. So it's actually a quite famous car in Germany. You know, maybe the Golf is the most sold car in Germany by far. Almost like triple the times than the second most car in Germany every year. Of course, not everyone buys the GTI, but it's still, for a compact sports car, it's kind of like the most common car. This is a car where you tend to appreciate red traffic lights, because you could use the acceleration then and also enjoy this very nice handling. You know, you got compact cars, so a very short wheelbase, and that makes the car so agile. The steering wheel is also great. It's one of my favorite steering wheels, I must say. And the whole Golf GTI suspension is so well balanced. If you go right and left, the car follows immediately, and you always got a nice response also in the fast corners. So, and what is also very good is that the steering itself is very progressive. That means I've also talked about in the Golf R video, for example, also with for example, Seat Leon. Progressive steering means I can keep both hands at the steering wheel most of the time, because the more I steer in one or the other direction, the more increasingly the steering reacts. So I don't have to turn around the steering wheel 2 or 3 times. It's really enough if I keep it at that level, and that really helps while driving, for sporty driving as well as for comfortable driving. So that's really fine. I think one of my favorite steering reactions here as well. So let's hunt the GTI through the corners now. Second gear. See, progressive steering. I can keep both hands at the steering wheel. Sorry, camera, gets a little bit bumpy here now as well. See, 90 degrees right. Can still keep 2 hands at the steering wheel. Works. So well balanced, the whole car. You feel like you're in total control, even if you're in sharp corners. I really like that. And still, you don't feel like caged in, like in a very low sports car. You also got this very good visibility to the front. because the front windscreen is also like in a normal car, you know. The sports car windscreens are usually a little bit flatter, and that reduces visibility, but here very good view all around, so you can easily also switch between sporty driving and seeing everything inside the city. So let's come to a conclusion about the Golf 7 GTI. I think it's truly a dream car because it combines sportiness and everyday usability, which you cannot expect from every sports car. And you still got this compact size where you can go everywhere. You don't have any problems going in the basement garage or in some other parking lots. So very well fitting for the city as well. And you got, of course, these emotional features in the exterior and interior, but it's not too much, you know. It's kind of a little bit of this understatement I mentioned, typical for Volkswagen as well. So, well, I really like this car and I would like to hear your opinion as well. You asked me in advance also how we can really compare it to the other competitors from inside Volkswagen and also, for example, from Seat. And I must say, when you compare it, for example, to the Golf R, this one only has the front-wheel drive. If you pick the performance package or not, 220 or 230 horsepower, it doesn't really matter. But the Golf R, of course, has the all-wheel drive, which is quite nice for winter situations. And it also gets the power better on the ground and is also tuned up until 300 horsepower. So yes, the Golf R is faster, that's right, but not so much actually. And you got more interior features, of course, as well. So the Golf R has even a higher trim level, but it's also not so much a difference because you got almost everything in here. So basically you pay a lot more money for the Golf R. So if you just look at the price performance ratio, you have to go for the GTI. The Golf R I would maybe pick if you also like have snowy conditions often where you can use some all-wheel drive, or if you say, you know, I don't really care about spending like 6,000 or 7,000 euros more. I just want the Golf R, I want the all-wheel drive. But basically you're also fine with the GTI. In the US you don't have the Scirocco available. That's very sad. You already mentioned that to our guys from the US. So you don't have the option there. In Europe you can pick the Scirocco still in some markets. There you have a smaller car. Also don't have the rear doors. So you have to think about, do you really need the rear doors? If you go for the Golf, I would always take the 5-door or 4-door version. I wouldn't go for the kind of coupe style because, you know, just from the optical side, it doesn't make so much difference. But you can just use the rear door very, very good in your everyday life. For example, if you go shopping or just once you put your backpack here, because, for example, I'm not sure what about you, but I'm usually used to when I have my backpack or something, also like when I go to the office or to some appointments, wherever, I hardly use the trunk. I'm not sure why, but I always use rear doors to put stuff in there and just leave it on the seats in the rear. But that's, you know, just my personal habit. And then again, if you compare it, for example, to the Seat Leon Cupra, I must say you're a little bit more elegant with the Golf. The Seat Leon Cupra is a little bit more younger. This one is more the elaborate version. So, thank you very much for watching and see you next time at Autogefühl.